Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Andrew. I'm going to be doing a spoiler-filled review for A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I have already done a spoiler-free review for this book, so if you are interested in checking that out, if you have not read the book yet, then I will leave that linked on the screen as well as in the description if you'd like to check it out. So if you have already read A Darker Shade of Magic, which it's been out for 6 years, so if you have read the book or you just don't care about being spoiled, then here we are. We're gonna get into my thoughts right away. I'm not going to talk about this in a linear fashion because that's just not something I'm capable of doing. I listened to this book almost entirely on audio, and then, as I said, but then I went back to like go through it physically to make notes and make this video. And as I was doing that, I was like, oh, I probably would have really liked this more had I not listened to it on audio. Even though the narrator is really good, I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe it. I just think that V.E. Schwab's writing is better with your eyes. I don't know. All right, so I'm just gonna get into my notes. I didn't take them, like I said, it's not gonna be, I don't know where we're gonna go here. So like if you're in the middle of the book, then you need to stop, but let's just talk about it. All right, so I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite parts of the book first. I made notes here, but I'm just gonna skip around on the notes. But so as I mentioned, the spoiler-free section, I really liked the magic system, and also it was so fascinating that it's called like Vitari or whatever, and it's like this entity that can possess people, and like Kel gets possessed by it, but then he like gets it out of his body towards the end of the book. And let's talk about Kel and Ry and their whole relationship and their whole dynamic, because it was delicious. I loved seeing all of that and their brotherly type bond that they had. Loved it. And like the end when Kel ties his life force to Ry with like the stone, and how he had to like, it was just so good. It was just so good. And I also want to talk about the very beginning of the book. There's this scene with Kel, and I believe his name is Ned, and Ned is like obsessed with magic. He's an enthusiast, as they're called, and he really, really wants like to know that magic is real. And he's like me, because I really want magic to be real, because who doesn't want, I mean, I don't know if I want this magic to be real, but I definitely love magic. I love the idea of magic. I love fantasy, but I just find it fascinating because there's like this part with the elemental set, and like the Ned character is like trying to like use magic in regular gray London, but like he can't, just like me, you know, he just can't use magic. I wish I could just do so many things magically, and just mostly like the dishes and the laundry. I wish I could just wave a wand and it'd be done. But here we are in real life. Also in this book, we get Kel's, like, we know that he's adopted by the royal family when he's 5 years old, but we never find out like why he's adopted by the royal family. And I have no theories. I have genuinely no idea like how or why he is in the possession of the royal family. I don't get it. Also on the topic of like Kel and like Antares, and like how it's just so interesting how like it's passed down in a way, or the way she describes it, like it's not a blood thing, like it's not given generationally to people. You just have it randomly. The ability to travel between the worlds or not. Fascinating. And I feel like I'm going to say fascinating a lot in this book, in this review. I'm going to say fascinating a lot because that's pretty much the general opinion I had of this whole novel, is that it was just fascinating to just think about all the potential with all these worlds and the history behind them. It was so good. It was just so good. I also love how the Antares, like Kel and Holland, let's get into Holland. I mean, he's clearly supposed to be this parallel between Kel, because in White London, we have Holland being like literally under the control of Athos and Astrid and that whole situation. And it's clear that she's trying to make the point that like Kel is kind of in a similar situation, but he's not. And then there's that whole thing at the beginning with Ry and Kel, and how Ry's like, haven't we given you everything you want? Like, haven't we given you, you don't want for anything? And then Kel is like, I feel more like a possession than a prince. And Holland is like kind of in the same boat, but obviously in a way worse way, because he's like literally magically controlled by these like evil weirdos. And man, like, but it was just such I love when like there's parallels made in stories. Like, it's good shit. But I also like how the Antares have like one solid black eye and then like a blue eye. It's just visually stunning. Like, I just love being able to picture it. Let's talk about Lila also, because I remember specifically that scene where she's like leaving I want to say they're at Red London or something, or the Tiernan guy, the priest, like sees her and can tell she has like a glass eye. Like, did somebody cut out that bitch's eye? Like, I don't. And like obviously she's able to go between the worlds, so like she probably is an Antares, or is she something else? Because she also can like go through Kel's coat like it's no big deal. She's just like, oh yeah, I found that thing in there. How is that even possible? Like, who is Lila Bard besides a cross-dressing pirate? But like, who is she? We all, you know, inquiring minds, just me, want to know. Also, just like the way the scene is written, in which Kel goes to White London and has to get that stone and like bring it back. Or he thinks it's a letter from this like old lady who's trying to like communicate with her long lost relative, which like, did we ever see her again? I don't think we see her again. So did she just go away? What's up with her? Also, when Lila first like interacts with Kel and they get like this, she gets the stone and then she like creates this clone of Kel, is just hilarious. And, but also kind of like, why is it there? Like, is she trying to like, are they, they're not attracted to each other, because Lila's definitely doesn't seem like she's interested in men, but they kiss several times in this book, but it's just a quick thing and it's for luck. So I don't know what that's about, but it's definitely interesting. I also thought the whole thing with White London was really cool, about how like whoever was ruling it was just someone who had balls to kill someone and wanted to take it over. Like, it was fascinating in and of itself. Let's talk about Baron. Okay, he's like hardly even in this book, but again, like I was feeling for him whenever Hovland came for him and killed him and then set the whole fucking thing on fire where Lila was staying, which was like her only like place, and Baron was like the only person that was like there for her in like some difficult ass times, and he was like, and he's just gone. He's just gone. And it was just so tragic. And then also like at the end of the book, we have Belloc, who is being controlled by Athos and Astrid. Again, just so sad, because Lila has to like kill him in order to get into like the room where Kel is at, because she's trying to like go in there and save him. Also, that scene where Lila and Kel are talking and she says, like, Kel says something about how he's part of this like royal family, or he like reveals to her, because they go back to Red London and he's like caught, and like it's clear that they're trying to find him because he's like wanted or whatever. And she's like, who are you? Why do they care so much about you? And he like tells her that he's like adopted by the royal family, and she's like, oh well, you need to go with your family because I've got nothing, so shut the fuck up. Like, you should be happy you have somebody, because I have nobody. I'm also like kind of curious about this black stone magic thing, because we have Athos, however you say it, being defeated by this serpent who comes out of the stone itself, and like Athos summoned it himself, but then the serpent like eats him. So like, but then the stone is used by Kel to like share his life force with Ry, and I'm pretty sure the stone like went in him. So like, why is this black stone loyal to Kel? So not sure if that's going to be explained in future books, or if I maybe just missed something in this book, but interested to see what happens in the series. There was also a lot of people getting possessed in this book, which was interesting to read, because I feel like that's hard to write, like the character being possessed by somebody else, because you don't have like the visual person or like the sound. You don't have like the sound to kind of like clarify or like give you that like possessed person voice. And then they have the palace guards, Parrish and Jin. There were so many people in this book that just deserved better, and they just died, and it was so sad. But it's clearly, I think, what makes this more of an adult book, because you don't have people coming back. Like, people die and there are consequences, which is just how I would prefer it to be written. I think there needs to be consequences for your characters in these like high stakes situations, because I just think it's better storytelling. It's just a story. These people aren't real. Kill them, kill the characters. I don't know, man. It's how I just feel like it more, if you're trying to set up a fantasy, I feel like this is a commonly discussed thing, and most people agree with me, that I have seen on the internet, like, you should kill your character. You should kill them. We want you to kill them and keep them dead. The resurrection trope is hard to pull off, but I have seen it pulled off in ways that I can get behind. But I appreciate it when an author keeps their characters dead. It just makes the story have more emotional stakes, and you just feel, although in this situation with Ry, of course, he's dead. Like, he is straight up dead. But I think it just goes to show the bond between Kel and Ry when he is dead. But there is magic in this universe, and there is a way to keep him alive. And the only way that he is alive is because of Kel's life force. So there is still that like high stake-ish situation. And of course, Belloc dies and Baron dies. Like, there's some books where literally nobody dies ever. So even though Ry didn't die, and I really, really didn't want him to die, and I'm actually really glad that he did not die because he was one of the best parts of this book. So if he did die, that would have sucked because he wouldn't have been in the next book. But it's very fascinating, this like bond that has now been created between these two characters. So I'm very excited to see how that plays out in the future books. Also, I don't know, again, I feel like my comprehension of books is just trash, but I'm just here to talk about what I got out of them. And we're going to talk about Parrish and Jen because I was talking about consequences. So I don't know who kills who, to be honest with you. I think Jen killed Parrish. That's what my notes say. And because Jen was possessed by Vitari, which is the name of like, you know, the magic that possesses people. And it says he was killed because he had a noble heart. So, and I don't feel like we ever saw them again. I don't know like why the magic needed a noble heart. I don't feel like it was explained in this book. So I'm just talking about predictions for future books. So maybe the noble heart thing is going to become relevant in the future. I'm just calling it now. Also, going back to Kel and Ry, which is just like kind of the best part of the book. I feel like I have hardly talked about Lila Bard so far, which, like I said, I'm pretty neutral on her. Like, I don't hate her. I feel like because people talk about how much they hate her, I expected to have some sort of visceral reaction to her as a character, but I didn't really. I don't know. It's just interesting. But back to Kel and Ry's relationship and the whole thing where Kel's talking to Lila about their backstory and how she's like, I want to hear the story about like what happened to him, and he's like, it's really tragic. And then Ry gets abducted by, I'm pretty sure people from another London, I think, took him away for whatever reason. But Kel says to Lila, like, Ry says, like, you find out Ry forgave these people that abducted him, which just goes to Ry's character and shows you how he's this, like, prince who's very forgiving. But then you find out Kel, like, went back to those people and is like, I never forgave them. And he, like, killed people for Ry. Like, he did that for Ry to show how much he cared. I feel like maybe it could have been a little bit more fleshed out, like that whole backstory situation. Like, why did they abduct him? I can't tell you. And I don't really know why they abducted him. Like I said, my comprehension is trash, but I will say I remember like Lila after she first meets Kel and like she ties him up because she is a thief and he like gets away and gets the object back and all that stuff. But then she has these like internal thoughts of like, I want to find him again. Like I want to talk to him because like I know he has magic. Like that is something that I feel like any of us would feel, or any of us who love fantasy would feel. We would be sitting there being like, oh, I want to like meet that magical person again because I want to go on those adventures. And of course we have the scene where she does meet back up with him and there's the quote that is everywhere. And it was kind of, I feel like there were other quotes in that scene that I like better. Like she says to him, you know, I want to see it all, or like, I'm not going to stop till I've seen it. And he's like, seen what? And she's like, everything. That's a good quote. There was just a lot of good quotes in that whole interaction between him and her about like going on adventures. But of course the most famous one is like, I'd rather die on an adventure than live standing still. Like that shit blew up. That's on every mug and every t-shirt out there, okay? Like it's a bit annoying. No, I just feel like there's other quotes in this book that are also good. I can't pinpoint them right now, but I just remember very specific descriptions about magic, and like I like the quotes about magic a little bit better than the quotes about like adventure. I feel like the magic is the strongest part of this book. And there's like the way that like the Thames River is described, or the way that Kel goes to this like building that he sees and he's talking about how magic builds things so quickly and sometimes it makes things too easy. Or the quotes about like when Lila goes to Red London and she sees the Thames River and just the way that that was described and like the magic coming out of the river that can be like seen. I really liked the quotes about magic, I think a little bit more than the quotes about adventure, but of course this is an adventure story also find it like the Arnesian and like the English, the whole discussion of that, and how like when Lila goes to, I want to say Red London, and people are like, who are you, why do you speak English? But she's from Grey London, which is like everybody speaks English. That just whole dynamic is just fascinating to think like if you were to escape into another of these Londons with all this magic, and if you were able to speak English and it be like the royal language, like how cool would that be? And like I have said before, I think one of the strongest points here is like all the different Londons and all the different ways in which they're explored here, or the way that magic has affected them, is so fascinating, because Black London is just this like sealed off place where nobody should be able to get out of it, and White London is this like place where people are just killing each other for the throne. But then Red London has like amazing magic where everything is great, and they have this rule where you can't use magic to like possess other people or control other people, which is kind of the issue with White London the whole time. I just find it fascinating. Like I said, I'm gonna say that word a lot. I think that's pretty much everything I really wanted to discuss as far as spoiler-filled discussion. So I would absolutely love to discuss the book with you if you have read it. I will leave my Instagram, Goodreads, and Twitter all in the description as well. So I would love it if you would follow me, talk to me about books. Have a great day. Bye.